A Cancer woman's heart is a mysterious ocean, and stepping into her world is like entering a tidal pool where beauty and danger coexist. Imagine her love as a sanctuary made of seashells and memories, where the air is scented with both comfort and caution. When she loves you, she offers warmth that feels like home, a kind of emotional cocoon so secure you might believe it will last forever. But here's the truth that centuries of stargazing and countless pages of psychology books agree upon: the same woman who lets you nestle into her deepest emotions can just as easily close the shutters of that home, locking you outside without so much as a stormy argument. Her departure is rarely theatrical, it is subtle, quiet, almost poetic in its retreat. Like the moon slowly waning, her light fades in increments until, one evening, you realize the night sky is dark, and you did not even see the moment when the last glimmer disappeared. What makes this withdrawal particularly dangerous is that it does not announce itself. There will be no slamming doors or dramatic soliloquies. Instead, the signs creep in gently, disguised as ordinary distance. Suddenly, the woman who once texted you paragraphs about her day now replies with a flat "fine." The affectionate touch that once lingered vanishes, replaced by a polite shrug or a casual excuse. You might even catch her rolling her eyes at your jokes, the very ones that once sent her laughing until tears ran down her face. A Cancer woman in retreat is not cruel, but she is efficient. She begins constructing walls, not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. And here's the bitter humor: while you're still planning the next date night, she's already halfway through the emotional packing process, folding memories neatly and placing them into the suitcase of her silence. Yet, understanding her is not an act of despair but of wisdom. From a psychological standpoint, people withdraw when they no longer feel safe or seen. From a spiritual lens, as the Buddha once hinted, attachment without mindfulness becomes suffering, and a Cancer woman knows this instinctively. When she senses the balance tilting, she retreats to protect her soul. And you, if you wish to salvage the bond, must learn to read the subtleties, the late replies, the absence of touch, the coldness that creeps in like a draft under a locked door. These are not random mood swings, they are warnings. The seasoned observer, the chosen one who studies not only the stars but also the patterns of the human heart, will act before the tides pull her away completely. So, if you find yourself puzzled, replaying conversations like reruns of a sitcom that stopped being funny in season 3, take heed. These quiet clues are not accidents but signposts on the road to goodbye. Recognizing them early is your only chance to turn the tide, or at the very least, to leave her world with dignity rather than confusion. For in the year of triumph, it is not just about conquering the world outside but mastering the delicate art of seeing the truth before it vanishes into the dark. A Cancer woman has long been described as an emotional enigma, and that description is far from exaggerated. To truly grasp her nature, you must look beyond the soft exterior, the nurturing gestures, and the sentimental words. Yes, she is ruled by the moon, that celestial body of cycles and tides, of memory and intuition, but to imagine her as merely sensitive or fragile is to underestimate her entirely. Beneath that surface lies a discerning mind, a fierce protector of her own heart, and a strategist who knows when to advance and when to retreat. Cancer, symbolized by the crab, teaches us an important truth: not all movement is direct. Not all defenses are loud. The crab does not march in a straight line, it sidesteps, it conceals itself in its shell, it survives storms by sheltering rather than fighting. And so does the Cancer woman. She does not slam the door on love with grand announcements or explosive fights, instead, she closes it gradually, gently, until one day you discover yourself on the outside, wondering when exactly you lost your place. From a psychological perspective, she embodies the eternal tug-of-war between two instincts, the desire to nurture and the need to protect herself. When she chooses you, she gives all of herself: her time, her patience, her loyalty, even parts of her identity. She becomes your confidant, your anchor, your home. But when she senses neglect, betrayal, or indifference, she begins to pull back. And this is no dramatic retreat, no soap opera level performance. No, her withdrawal is subtle, almost imperceptible, which is precisely why so many partners miss it until it is too late. It is in this quiet unraveling that her enigma deepens. Her silence is not apathy, it is strategy, preservation, a way of reclaiming her energy before she gives it all away to someone undeserving. The first and most telling sign of this retreat is that she stops letting you into her emotional universe. At her most loving, a Cancer woman is like an open journal, not the kind you borrow from the library, but the kind you keep hidden in a drawer, full of doodles, secrets, and confessions written under the cover of night. She lets you see her scars, her late-night anxieties, her dreams that she half believes are impossible, and yes, even her unfiltered commentary about Becky from accounting. When she loves you, you live inside her story. But if one day you notice that your questions are answered with short phrases like "it's fine" or "nothing much," you are no longer her chosen confidant. This is not mere silence, this is withdrawal. For Cancer women, emotional intimacy is the very oxygen of a relationship. When she shuts that door, it means she no longer feels safe with you. And here is the cruel truth: once that door is locked, it is not easily opened again. Many partners make the mistake of dismissing this change. They think, she's tired, or she's just busy. But no. As someone who has studied not only astrology but also the psychology of attachment, I can tell you this: she does not stop sharing unless something is already broken. Those who are truly awake to the rhythms of the heart, the chosen ones among us, will recognize this signal before it becomes irreversible. So what can you do if you sense this first subtle sign? Here, the wisdom of both psychology and ancient philosophy converge. Do not interrogate her with frantic questions. Do not attempt to pry her open like a locked chest. Instead, create a space of safety. Learn the art of listening without rushing to fix. Too many men leap in with solutions, mistaking problem solving for intimacy. But intimacy is not fixing, it is presence. The Buddhist masters remind us that compassion is not about erasing another's suffering but about sitting with it, holding it gently, allowing it to exist without judgment. A Cancer woman craves that kind of presence. If she feels you can sit with her emotions without fear or impatience, she may begin to let you back into her world. And here is where a touch of humor is needed, because love without laughter is a house without windows. Imagine this: you once received a 3-page midnight text about how she felt ignored at work, complete with emojis, a rant about Becky, and a stream of consciousness that ended with a question about whether you believe in past lives. Now, months later, you ask how her day was, and she responds with "fine." My friend, that is not fine. That is the romantic equivalent of a fire alarm that no one is hearing. You do not need to panic, but you do need to pay attention. Ultimately, a Cancer woman's retreat is not punishment, it is protection. She has given much, and if she no longer feels held in return, she will begin the slow process of turning inward. But remember, she is not cruel. Her silence is not indifference, it is a shield. And if you can learn to recognize it early, if you can replace interrogation with empathy, if you can stop trying to be the repairman and instead become the sanctuary, you might just re-enter her emotional universe. Fail to notice, and you will wake one morning to find the shutters closed, the tide receded, and yourself left on the shore, wondering how you missed the signs that were written in the stars and whispered in her silences all along. When the once vibrant rhythm of a Cancer woman's communication begins to slow, it is rarely by accident. Think back to those early days when your phone lit up with her messages faster than your mother's response to the dinner bell, when her texts were long, detailed, and brimming with warmth. If those conversations have now shrunk into monosyllabic replies okay, sure, fine, you are no longer reading love notes, you are reading exit scripts. For a Cancer woman, texting is not just idle chatter, it is the invisible thread that keeps her connected to the person she loves. Digital words, in her world, are not trivial, they are the daily proof of care, attention, and presence. When that tether weakens, it is a signal not of busyness but of withdrawal. Psychology tells us that delayed responses are not about lacking minutes in the day but about lacking emotional energy to invest. When someone values you, they create time even in chaos. When they don't, even their free hours become mysteriously unavailable. And here's where humor can soften the sting. If your Cancer woman begins replying with the lifeless cadence of a customer service bot, you should pay attention. How was your day? Fine. Do you miss me? Sure. That is not intimacy, that is a polite way of saying her heart has begun rehearsing its goodbye. The worst mistake many partners make at this stage is to panic, to flood her inbox with frantic accusations or endless "what did I do wrong" messages. All that achieves is pushing her further into silence. The wiser course is to step back, give her the breathing space she needs, and see whether she chooses to re-engage. Silence, in this context, is its own form of communication, and often far more honest than words. This pattern of withdrawal does not end with texting. It bleeds into the physical space as well. A Cancer woman, when in love, is deeply tactile. She is the type to reach for your hand without thinking, to rest her head against your shoulder while recounting the day, to curl into your side during a movie. For her, physical affection is not decoration but the very expression of emotional intimacy. When that warmth vanishes, when she dodges your touch with the agility of a soccer player weaving past defenders, it is not stress or coincidence, it is emotional retreat taking shape in the body. I have listened to many accounts from people who only recognized this truth too late. They mistook the absence of cuddling for tiredness, stress, or distraction, when in reality it was the quiet rehearsal of an impending separation. And here lies a crucial insight. The year of triumph 2025, astrologically speaking, is not just about external victories or career milestones. It is about learning to see clearly, to acknowledge truths we have long ignored. If your Cancer partner begins avoiding your touch, that is not a small mood swing, it is the universe handing you a mirror. What, then, can be done? The answer is not confrontation but compassion. Do not storm into the room demanding explanations, that will only make her retreat further. Instead, approach with gentleness, with the patience of one who understands that love cannot be forced. A simple, open-hearted question "I've noticed you've been less affectionate lately, is everything okay?" carries far more weight than 1,000 accusations. If she is simply stressed, she will likely let you in. If she has already checked out, her silence will be the clearest answer you'll ever receive. In either case, you have chosen the higher road, the one aligned not only with emotional intelligence but also with the wisdom found in Buddhist teaching. Love is not about clinging, but about presence, patience, and the courage to face truth even when it hurts. And if she walks away, let her go with dignity, knowing that love withheld is no love at all. For a Cancer woman, touch and words are sacred currencies. When she stops spending them on you, the relationship is already living on borrowed time. When a Cancer woman begins to shift from warmth to cold indifference, the change is rarely loud, yet it carries the weight of inevitability. Known for their natural empathy and instinct to nurture, Cancer women are often the last to inflict deliberate pain. Yet when her heart starts to detach, her behavior may transform in ways that are both bewildering and telling. She may roll her eyes at the jokes she once adored, dismiss your thoughts with the casual flick of a hand, or treat you like an echo in the room rather than the person she once held at the center of her universe. This is not cruelty, it is self-protection. By being distant, sometimes even outright rude, she is creating emotional space, cushioning the impact of her departure for herself, and perhaps, in her mind, sparing you the harsh finality of direct words. Think of it as her subconscious way of pulling down the blinds before she leaves the house altogether. Buddhist thought reminds us that when compassion dries up, the heart has already begun its departure. A Cancer woman will not usually declare "I'm finished" with dramatic clarity. Instead, her silence, her irritation, and her dismissiveness form a quieter, but equally clear, signal. And to inject a dose of humor into this otherwise sobering realization, if the sound of your breathing suddenly irritates her more than the neighbor's endlessly barking dog, take note that irritation is not about your lungs, but about her fading patience. The decline does not stop there. It deepens into the stage where nothing you do is ever enough. You could rise before dawn to prepare her favorite breakfast in bed, hand her roses fresh from the florist, and recite lines of Shakespeare under the stars, and she would still find fault. The eggs are too runny, the flowers not vibrant enough, and Shakespeare, frankly, overrated. This is not a sudden lapse in her appreciation but a symptom of emotional disconnection. When a Cancer woman has checked out, she begins justifying her exit by magnifying flaws. Rather than facing the painful truth of saying "I no longer feel in love," she convinces herself with "he never does anything right." Psychology has a name for this projection. By shifting blame onto you, she shields herself from guilt, making it easier to detach. Criticism, then, becomes not a reflection of your effort but of her inner process of departure. And if you find yourself constantly carrying the burden of never being good enough, remember, it is not your actions that are failing, but her heart that is already on its way out. Real love does not make you feel diminished, and if you find yourself shrinking in her presence, it may be time to recognize that staying is no longer a noble act but a denial of truth. And yet, is there hope? That is the question most partners whisper to themselves late at night, wondering if the relationship is doomed or salvageable. The answer is not as bleak as it may seem. Cancer women, despite their emotional defenses, do not walk away lightly. If she is still physically present, even if distant, there is still a thread connecting you. But hope without action is meaningless. The true weapon here is not grand gestures or frantic attempts at overcompensation, but simple, honest, vulnerable communication. It requires the courage to ask directly, "Are you still happy here?" and the strength to hear whatever truth follows. If she opens up, even with words that sting, you may still have a chance to rebuild. But if she hesitates, evades, or falls silent, then her answer has already been given. Timing, as in life, is everything. Recognizing the subtle signs early can make the difference between salvaging a love story and becoming a bystander in its inevitable collapse. Ignore them, and you will learn the hard way what countless others have discovered, that Cancer women rarely leave suddenly, but by the time they do, they have already been gone for far longer than you realized. Cancer women are not heartless villains walking away on a whim. They are among the most deliberate and emotionally complex of the Zodiac. When they leave, it is rarely sudden. It is the result of countless nights spent overthinking, weighing memories against present disappointments, and quietly rehearsing their exit long before it becomes visible to you. By the time a Cancer woman physically walks out the door, she has already left in spirit months before. That is why the subtle signs we've explored matter so deeply. The wise observer, the ones I call the chosen ones, do not dismiss those small shifts as mood swings. They know better. They sense when the tides are turning, and instead of waiting until the storm sweeps the house away, they prepare, they listen, and they act with compassion and courage. The lesson is as much spiritual as it is practical. Ignoring intuition is often the first betrayal in a relationship, and Cancer women, ruled by the moon, embody intuition itself. As we step into what astrologers call the Year of Triumph 2025, remember that triumph does not always mean conquering the external world with promotions, wealth, or victories. Sometimes triumph is quieter, more inward, more human. It is the ability to navigate the storms within relationships with grace. For some, triumph is choosing to stay and rebuild, to meet distance with patience and create a new bridge of trust. For others, triumph is letting go, recognizing that clinging to someone who has already emotionally departed only deepens the suffering. In Buddhist teaching, true love is not about possession but about freedom, compassion, and truth. To hold on when the other has already gone is to bind yourself in illusion, to release is to honor both your heart and theirs. That being said, it is important to laugh even in the middle of these lessons. Humor, after all, is a salve for the spirit. If your Cancer woman suddenly treats you less like a partner and more like a roommate who borrowed her Netflix password and never returned it, you might already be a background character in the movie of her life. It stings, yes, but it is also a reminder that love stories, like films, sometimes require a new script, new actors, and new beginnings. The awareness of this truth does not diminish the beauty of what once was, it allows you to step into what could be. So let us recap with clarity. The warning signs are simple: she stops sharing her emotional world, her replies grow delayed and hollow, her touch fades, her kindness hardens into dismissiveness, and nothing you do ever feels enough. Spotting one of these does not spell doom. But seeing several appear together is your wake-up call, the universe whispering, pay attention. In astrology as in love, awareness is the first step to transformation. The stars do not dictate your fate, they illuminate it. And if the relationship does end, remember this: endings are not failures but thresholds. The most powerful triumph is not in forcing someone to stay but in letting go with dignity, carrying forward the wisdom and compassion you have cultivated. What awaits is not an ending but a new chapter, perhaps one you could not have imagined until this very moment. And if this reflection has guided you even slightly, I invite you to continue with us at Wisdom of Zodiac Signs, where astrology, psychology, and timeless insight meet to help you navigate both the storms of the cosmos and the storms of the heart.